Call WOW NLP now at 888-928-7333 or visit www.wownlp.com. Call now 888-928-7333 or visit www.wownlp.com.
Welcome back to Conscious Awakenings. So we're talking with investigative journalist Bryan about a global conscious awakening. So did you hear or see about that Photoshop with BP? It just came out.
Yes, I did. I actually saw the story about three hours ago where they're photoshopping these screen monitors to show what the guys are looking at. And if you understand Photoshop, it's extremely easy now to do things like this. And you have to start to ask yourself, if they're doing that, are we really looking at the actual live video of this riser? Is that the actual oil leak? And I want to believe it is. But it makes you wonder, okay, how many tricky things, if we're controlling the media, there's a media blackout, there's an airspace blackout, or there's you can't fly a plane over it. You have to start asking, why is there such a control grid, and why the lies that continue to come out? Yes, they don't want their company to be hit even harder, probably on the stock exchange and all that, but there's so many factors going into this that you really have to scratch your head, and many people don't want to think about it. They just want to go on their daily life and do what they're doing. But if you truly ask the questions, and myself, I don't want to believe it's true. I want to believe that this is all done and over. But unfortunately, I think it's just the beginning, and it's just the beginning of the impact on our economy. And it's such a huge event that it's just not going to stop tomorrow, because they're finding these other leaks. And how do you correct those leaks? How do you correct the leaks of the floor that's breaking? And yes, there's natural seepage, but as this continues on, and what I've been noticing is that if you go to YouTube, this is my opinion, but there's toxic rain videos and there's oil rain videos, and you see how these light hydrocarbons and the dispersant is being evaporated into the air and being moved basically north and east through the wind currents or through the cloud patterns, and raining down is like an acid rain affecting the crops and the different things, and no one knows what's really happening, but it's happening in such a slow process. I call it the slow grind, that people don't catch on to it, but they're slowly starting to see their crops die and their trees die and their flowers die. And if I was just seeing it maybe in Texas or just seeing it in South Carolina or just in Indiana, I'd say, okay, well, it's just a localized event, maybe bugs or something like that. But when you start to see this on a mass level, I think it's bigger than what we really think it is. And then you have to ask yourself, well, what's going to happen to our food supply and our grain supply? And those are the questions that we ask, and no one's answering them. We just kind of continue going on, and we're focused on many events or bad events that are happening, like a potential war in Iran. I mean, they're talking that up. And, it's a different world there we live in than what we were told, I think.
Where could people get more information about you? You said you had a YouTube channel?
I do. I have a YouTube channel. Just type in Outlivesheep. You'll find many of my movies that I've put together, basically from 2 minutes to 10 minutes long, many different subjects on the economy, and I kind of go along as things happen, such as the BP oil spill happens. I create the movies trying to, and I mean, it's not to make profit. I'll tell you, I'm losing money on it, but and the time I put into it is unreal with the website, the talk show, the YouTube channel. It's extremely time-consuming, but it's out there to help people. It's out there to inform them. And if you have an open mind and you ask questions, and not saying that you agree with everything that I put down or that I show you is accurate, I believe in my mind it's accurate. I'm not going to show you false information, but it's to open your eyes to the overall picture. And if I know that I'm being taken advantage of, I at least want to know I'm being taken advantage of. There might not be much that I can do about it, except for informing other people, but I at least want to know that. So if it deals with the economy, if it deals with the BP oil spill, those are the different things that I'm trying to do through the website, is just to help other people. And it's like many others. I mean, you got Alex Jones has a great channel, and the Drudge Report's great, but they all have their own center or their own focus, their own niche. And mine might be more of a survival mode, where I'm planning for long term and what we can do to get through these events. And I mean, if there's a food shortage, do I have enough dry food storage? Do I have a water filter in case that the water goes bad, so I have a way to filter it? And there has to be a balance, I know, with your normal life. I mean, I have a 9-to-5 job, and I have my investigative journalism things that I do to create for everyone else, but I enjoy doing it, and I think when you enjoy it and you have a passion, it hopefully shows.
Well, on your site, you talk about there's a reference to the Institute of Atmospheric Sciences and Climate. And, what's interesting is, they're talking about the irreparable damage to the currents, thermoregulation activity of the currents. Several years ago, I was at a workshop where the teacher had mentioned how several years ago, about 90% of the Atlantic currents had actually already ceased, and that we were on the verge of the current actually stopping. And if that should, that you would literally enter into kind of like an episode of the movie The Day After Tomorrow. Can you speak of that article on your site? It's actually at the top of your site.
Yes, I'm happy that you brought that up. I actually, I get emails every day from people sending me current events and things that I may not see, and it's very helpful because it's hard as a couple people to basically put this stuff up and to find all the information. So many people email me things like this. And what this is about is that because of what's happening with the oil spill and the dispersants being put in, down in the Gulf, the loop current that usually takes that warm water along the eastern seaboard of Florida up towards Europe, that's starting to cease, and as well as other ocean currents around the world. And if most of you have seen The Day After Tomorrow, you understand that's a major point in the movie, causing the weather phenomenons as well as this whole ice age that happened extremely quickly. And one other thing that came about this last week was the atmosphere. Is that I got probably 2 or 3 news stories on the website about scientists are puzzled of the collapse of the upper atmosphere. Well, you put that information together, collapse of the upper atmosphere, and the loop current ceasing to exist, that's almost like The Day After Tomorrow, exactly what happened. And yeah, I just thought it was really interesting. And if you start to think about that, like, wow, I hope that doesn't happen. But those 2 events with the upper atmosphere and the loop current not existing anymore, those things are actual facts.
Yeah, what's interesting is you actually see there's a really great video on that site with Phil Deagle, and you actually see the satellite images, and you see that you can actually see the disintegration of the currents or the Gulf current.
No, right.
So, what are some signs to you that in the world that indicate that a mass global awakening is starting and continuing?
Well, I think the way or the things that we've seen is that people are starting to awaken. Especially, I think the biggest thing what happened to me with this whole economy that we're in, and that there's so many people that are unemployed, and I'm hoping and I'm thinking that this is all starting this way, is that people are starting to awaken and ask questions of why are they in the position they're in, and say, well, because we overspent and we lost our job and all those things. But then you say, well, we've always been taught with free credit and things that, this is what we do. We're a buy society, and we want to consume as many things as